No child is as ugly as this in the history of my family. How do I explain this? She is too dark and ugly. Once upon a time, in the bustling city of Warri, there lived a woman called Mama Kume. Mama Kume lives in the southern part of Nigeria. She is a popular fashion designer. She has 4 children, but her third child, Elohor, is very dark and she has a skin condition. Mama Kume hated her child, Elohor, for not being as beautiful as her sisters. She looks for every opportunity to belittle her and made her know that she is ugly and no man would want to settle down with a girl like her. Mama Kume was not fair to Elohor at all. She would often call her dumb for any slight mistake and compare her to her sisters and her peers. Her siblings also did not help matters, as they often blame Elohor for everything missing or broken in the house. But the last child, Ovie, loves Elohor so much that she goes anywhere she goes and defends her every time. Due to this, the people around the village refer to them as the unidentical twin. Elohor is a very forgetful girl when it comes to errands, but she has a strength too. She is a highly intelligent storyteller. Every evening, she would gather the little children around the community and tell interesting stories that would keep them glued into the night. The news of her amazing stories soon reached the parents of these children, and as time went on, their parents would sit to listen to the lovely tales told by Elohor. One day, Mama Kume sent Elohor to give some clothes to her customer and bring the money paid. But Elohor was dragged by the villagers to tell them some stories. Forgetting her mother's errand, she began to tell her stories, cracking the villagers up and leaving them in tears after telling emotional tales. She was in the middle of telling her third story when her mother appeared with a long cane. She hit her hard from behind and dragged her away from the crowd. The children watched while their mothers and fathers begged Mama Kume to take it easy on Elohor. But Mama Kume did not listen to any of them as she dragged Elohor away. She beat her severely and locked her in her room for hours. When Elohor asked her for dinner that night, Mama Kume refused to give it to her. Later that night, she went to where Elohor lay crying due to hunger. "I regret having you as a child. You are ugly and dumb at the same time. I sent you to get money for the clothes delivered, but you did not bother to check if the money was complete." Mama Kume yelled as she threw the money on Elohor. She sent her out that night and asked her to get the complete money from her customer or she would deal with her. Elohor ran out of the house crying as she walked along lonely path to get the balance from her mother's customer. Mama Kume sat outside thinking of what to do with Elohor. She remembered when she had just given birth to her and the midwife forced her to take the baby away. When Mama Kume saw Elohor after giving birth to her, she asked the midwife to take the child away as she screamed. The midwife was surprised as she held onto the little baby. She asked her why she would suggest that, and Mama Kume replied, "No child is as ugly as this in the history of my family. How do I explain this? She is too dark and ugly." Mama Kume complained. "Mama Kume, how can you say that? Are you God? Can you create a human being? No child is ugly. Please take this child and take care of her." Mama Kume reluctantly collected the child from the midwife, and she couldn't bear to look at her for too long. Her large brown eyes are scary to Mama Kume, and whenever it's time to breastfeed Elohor, she would cover her face with a handkerchief to avoid eye contact. She would also leave Elohor unattended for hours and she would cry and cry. Her husband did not help matters. He would often tell her to pick up the demon she gave birth to. He blamed her for always going out at night while pregnant, because if she hadn't done that, a demon wouldn't have had the chance to change the baby in her womb. Her neighbors would walk past Mama Kume quickly when they saw Elohor with her, and when Elohor began to walk, people ran away from her. They called her demon, devil, and all sorts of names. However, as Elohor was growing up, people began to see her in another light, as she was always full of life. She would often chase the little kids to scare them, but as time went on, they became friends with her because of her unique gift of storytelling, and people began to look beyond her looks. Mama Kume's thought was interrupted by Elohor. Mama, Mama Edafe said she doesn't have any balance to give to me. I swear, I counted the money after collecting it from her, but I'm surprised that she's lying about not knowing again. Elohor began to explain. Mama Kume did not even wait for her to stop talking. She hit her hand on the face and twisted her ears tightly. You will not eat for 3 days in this house. I will use your food money to pay the balance, you lying demon, she said as she pushed her away. Elohor began to cry. She was hurt deeply and she said, "But Mama, you don't even bother to talk to your customer to find out the truth. I did not lose your money. I'm very sure about it. Mama Edafe is lying," Elohor said, walking backwards as she knew her mother would beat her again. "How dare you call my friend a liar? You will not eat for 7 days for saying all this," her mother yelled in anger. Elohor went to sit under a tree as her mother went inside. When everyone was asleep, she snuck inside and slept beside her siblings. The next day, Mama Elohor was at her shop when Mama Edafe came to get her clothes. Mama Elohor asked her how much she gave to Elohor, and she replied that she paid all her balance. Mama Elohor then began to talk again. "That useless girl. She told me that you paid half of the money, and I knew that she was lying because you're an adult and you're my friend. You can't tell such a lie. She is always a pain to me." That was how she lied that Mama Emeka came to collect some goods, but she actually sold the goods and kept the money for herself. So many times, she would steal her siblings' school snacks and still lie about it. "I'm tired of this girl," Mama Elohor said angrily. "That your daughter is terrible. You really need to teach her a lesson so she can learn. Why would she tell lies just to destroy our relationship? She's truly a demon like you always say," Mama Edafe said. "To be honest with you, I'm tired of that girl. I really wish that she would go away and never come back. She has been a source of sorrow to me since her birth," Mama Kume said, sobbing. I actually have a suggestion if you don't mind. I have a brother in the next village. His wife I just put to bed and she needs someone who would run little errands around the house," Mama Edafe suggested. "Really? I wouldn't mind though if you could take Elohor. I'm really tired of that girl. She needs to learn the hard way." "Okay, I'm sure he would like to take her. Just get her prepared tomorrow and I will come pick her up," Mama Edafe said, leaving her store. The next morning, Mama Kume had prepared Elohor. She lied to her that she would go to live with her brother in the next village, and when she asked her why Mama Edafe is the one taking her there, she told her that she has lots of clothes to sew. Elohor tried to hug her mother, but she shoved her aside, asking her to start going before it gets dark. Elohor was not happy with the way she was sent away, but she couldn't do much. The journey was very stressful and it took them 2 days to get to Mama Edafe's brother, Mr. Omukoro. He stays in a village called Agbo. Omukoro is a successful farmer in Agbo and he has a lot of men working for him. Mama Edafe told him that Elohor is a liar and a thief and he must do everything to ensure that she doesn't steal his goods. Omukoro was scared of firing her when he heard this and he asked Mama Edafe to take her away, but she refused. When she left, Omukoro called Elohor in private and he began to talk. "If you want to stay with me for a long time, you would need to be truthful and stop your stealing habits, okay?" Elohor replied that she won't disappoint him if only he would not treat her based on what he has been told about her. Omukoro assures her that he doesn't treat his workers badly, but if he finds anyone stealing, he will send them away. Elohor wondered why her mother would lie just to send her to work for someone in a far village where she had no family. Am I that terrible? Elohor asked herself many times. She began to work diligently and Omukoro liked her for her hard work. She would cook meals for the farm workers and keep the house clean. Omukoro's wife also began to like her and the couple were surprised that Mama Edafe's story about who she is doesn't match her behavior. However, the workers often insult her based on her looks, and some people would even tell her to go commit suicide because no man would marry an ugly girl like her. Elohor would often cry in secret because of their harsh words, and sometimes she would wish to be beautiful. Days later, she wrote several letters to her mom and siblings, but only Ovie kept in contact with her. Ovie would update Elohor with the recent happenings in the village, and she would tell her that she loves her dearly and will never forget her. However, her mother and other siblings never replied her letters. 2 years after working for the homocorals, Elohor wondered why her mother never replied her countless letters, and she decided to go home. She told her boss about her plan, and they began to make plans for her journey back to her village. They gave her lots of fruits, veggies and crops to give her parents, and Elohor was very happy. But when she got home, her mother was not happy to see her. Only Ovie, her lovely younger sister, was happy to see her. Makome collected the gifts she brought and asked her to leave on time the next morning to avoid missing the morning bus. Haha, Mama, I'm spending 1 month with you. I've missed you guys so much. Elohor replied, but Mama Kome quickly got up from her chair as she heard this. One what? 1 full month? I'm sorry, but you can't stay here for 1 month, Elohor. You just have to leave. I think you should even start going now. Mama, but I just barely arrived. Why are you sending me away? Elohor asked, surprised. I'm not sending you away. I just don't want issues because now that you're around, things will start missing. Mama Kome said, Mama, how can you believe outsiders above your own child? I tried to make you see beyond my skin color and facial looks, but you never tried to know me. Why do you hate me so much? Elohor asked, her voice trembling and tears pouring from her eyes. I know who you are, Elohor. Please leave my house and don't come back. Mama Kome said. Elohor was heartbroken that her mom could be that heartless. She picked up her bag and stormed out of the house. By the time she got to the motor park, it was already late in the night. Luckily for her, she took the last bus to Agbo, hoping to arrive there by morning. However, at the middle of their journey, the vehicle developed a fault and everyone had to come down. The road was lonely and the people were very scared. As she sat down at the corner of the road, thinking about all the humiliations she had suffered in the hands of her parents, siblings and people around her, Elohor heaved a heavy sigh. A young man sitting beside her heard her and he said, Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine, Elohor replied, using her handkerchief to clean her tears. I do not know what the problem is and I'm not forcing you to share it. But please, try as much as you can to take it off your mind. Thinking would solve anything, the man said. Elohor smiled and thanked the man. They began to talk and soon, Elohor shared some of her stories with the man. He laughed at her stories and he was convinced that she learned the art of storytelling. But Elohor replied, I was born with the gifts of storytelling, just like everyone else are born with different gifts. The man asked where she lives, but she shoved the question aside. Few moments later, the driver told the passengers that the bus is ready to move again, and they continued their journey. Elohor got back to her boss's place the next day, and they were surprised to see her. She had to lie to them that her family had traveled and were not around when she got back home. She didn't know how to explain that her people despised her so much that they do not want her back home. After the incidents, Elohor had decided not to go back home again. She always wondered why her parents hated her so much but couldn't think of a reason. But now she knows they can't love her no matter what. A week later, Elohor was in the kitchen when Emokoro called her to attend to a guest. When she came out, it was the man who sat with her when their vehicle broke down when she was returning from her village. Elohor greeted him and hid her face, hoping that he would not recognize him. She was about to turn away when he pointed out that he had seen her face before. I have seen you before. I don't forget faces easily, he started. Yes, we were in the same vehicle that broke down a week ago, Elohor said reluctantly. Oh yes, I knew it. How have you been? I'm fine, thank you, Elohor replied grudgingly, surprised to see the man again. She was going back inside to continue cooking when her employer asked her to come back and sit down. He told her that the king has heard about her wonderful storytelling gifts and he needs someone to tell stories every evening at the palace. Elohor was surprised. She doesn't understand why a king would want someone like her to tell stories. She wanted to turn down the offer, but Mr. Omukoro stopped her. He told the man that she would be coming to the palace every evening, and the man left. Omukoro was very happy for her. When he left, he started to talk to her. Do you know what it means to be the palace storyteller? I bet you don't. Make sure you continue being a good girl and do not listen to what anyone says about you. I know a lot of people will not like you due to your looks, but you shouldn't stop being yourself or being happy because of them. People who are friends with you are lucky to have you, and the ones who despise you are not worth your time and effort. You are a gem, Elohor, and I want you to always keep that in your heart. Tears rolled down Elohor's face as Omukoro showered her with praises. She thanked him for loving her regardless of her looks, and she promised to be a good girl at the palace and not disappoint him. From that day, Elohor would go to the palace to tell stories, and soon she became a popular storyteller. Kings from neighboring towns who have heard her stories would invite her to events, and she would travel long distances to share her stories. In just a few months, Elohor began to dine with kings and influential people around Agbo and other far places, and her life changed forever. Even though Elohor is not as beautiful as other young women like her, she captured the hearts of many, and one time, a king asked her to marry him, but she turned down the offer. Elohor would turn deaf ears to negative talks and continued improving her storytelling skills. 2 years later, Elohor had become a household name, and the news soon got to her parents and siblings. Her mother was surprised to hear that Elohor had become very wealthy and popular. She couldn't believe that anything good would come out of her. One day, Elohor was invited by her town's king, but she rejected the offer. Her village reminded her of so many heartbreaking events, and going back would mean opening old ones and seeing the people she has vowed never to see again. But she kept getting the invite every month, and the price increases each time. She finally decided to give it a shot after a year. When Elohor got to her hometown, the people were surprised to see that the demon child had become so big. A huge crowd followed her to the village, and the people sang her praises as she walked to meet the king. Mama Edafe informed Makome about her daughter's arrival, and Mama Kume left her shop to find out if it was true. Her siblings also went with her. When they got there, they found out that they had to pay a huge sum of money to see Elohor. Mama Kume yelled at the guard, "Leave the way! I am her biological mother, and these are her siblings." She yelled, "I'm sorry, Madam Elohor does not have any family member except the Umukoros, and we are not told to allow anyone in except them." Interesting, Mama Kume said sarcastically. "I don't blame her. I shouldn't have come here in the first place. What a humiliation," she said, easing as she leaves the venue. Mama Edafe called after her, but she did not wait. Mama Kume cried her house out when she got back to her shop. Elohor's siblings told Mama Kume that they would wait until she's done telling the stories at the palace. Maybe they could have a word with her. They decided to use Ovie because of the love between her and Elohor. At first, Ovie refuses, asking them why they wanted her now that she's famous when they never wanted her before. But on a second thought, she agreed to meet Elohor, and they went back to the palace. Fortunately for them, they met Elohor at the entrance. She hugged Ovie tightly as soon as she saw her. She hugged her other sisters too. They informed her that her mother came around, but the guard turned her back, and Elohor replied, "I am aware, and I gave out that instruction. Mother doesn't want me, so I'm doing everything to avoid seeing her. Send my greetings to her," Elohor said as she left the village. She shed tears as she recalled everything her mother put her through. She remembered how she never listened to her, and how she believed the lies told by people who hate her, and how she made her vulnerable to the villagers. Elohor is torn between forgiving her mother and her siblings and going away forever. Elohor returned to Agbo, feeling sorry for her mother and sisters. Warri Town is not what it used to be, and it is very glaring that her sisters are being affected. Their shiny bright skins had turned pale and their growths stunted. She is torn between helping her mother and sisters or just staying away from them. I'm not even sure if they love me because of my fame or if they truly miss me. What if I get heartbroken again after forgiving him? Elohor thought about this for days before she decided that she would forgive them and bring them to live with her. Her house is too big and it can be lonely being in there alone sometimes. So, Elohor wrote a letter to Ovie inviting her and the rest of her family to Agbo. She asked them not to come with anything as everything they will be needing will be provided for them. When Mama Kume and her kids got to Elohor's home, they opened their mouths wide in surprise. Mama Kume asked Elohor if the house truly belonged to her, and Elohor replied in the affirmative. Yes, it is mine, Mama. My years of storytelling gave me all this. Mama Kume walked inside the house grudgingly, unhappy that Elohor would be the one to own such a big house. So she was faking her laughter and smiles to prevent Elohor from suspecting anything. After being entertained, Mama Kume and her kids sat in the sitting room watching a TV. The family began to catch up. Ovie told Elohor everything that happened while she is away from the village. She informs her that a lot of people missed her storytelling, and even though she tried to fill in the void, they did not enjoy her storytelling style as much as they enjoyed Elohor's own, and they always live in disappointment. But with time, people got used to not listening to your stories again, and since I couldn't replace you, everyone moved on. Ovie said. Mama Kume informs Elohor that her elder sister, Kume, will be getting married soon and they will be needing all the support they can get from her. Elohor replied that it is not a problem. She will do everything to make the wedding a memorable one for her sister. That night, Mama Kume could not bear to keep her emotions in check. She began to cry, and when Elohor asked her why she couldn't say anything, Mama Elohor was actually crying because deep down, she wanted her first child, Kume, to be in Elohor's position. She wondered how Elohor, as ugly as she is, will have to be the one in such a position out of all her beautiful girls. She cried, unhappy and angry at Elohor's success. Even though they did not know the reason for her tears, Elohor and her sisters hugged her and asked her to stop crying. I want everyone to understand that we are a family and everything I own belongs to you, my mom, and my siblings. I will not sit back and enjoy while my family languishes in poverty. Everything that happened in the past should be left in the past. This is present and we should enjoy every bit of it. Ella smiled and her mother smiled back, looking away immediately. She hasn't been able to keep eye contact with Elo since she was a child because looking at Elo makes her unhappy and she still feels the same way. 3 days later, Mama Kome informed Elo that she will be leaving soon because she has clothes to deliver for her customers and they will be angry with her if she doesn't deliver on time. But the truth is, Mama Kome is not comfortable staying in the house knowing that it belongs to Elo, so she wanted to get out of there quickly. Elohor informed her mother that she has some unoccupied houses in Hagbo. She wants her mother to stay in a bigger apartment and leave their old dilapidated building, but her mother insisted that she has customers in Warri and would love to keep staying there. She gave her mom a huge sum of money to renovate their old house and make it more habitable, and Mama Hello collected it reluctantly. Kome and Ene decided to stay for a few more days while Ovie told her mom that she would be staying with Elo permanently. Now that their mother was gone, the girls were free like a bird and I did everything with Elo. They would stay in the vehicle while she attended meetings or tell stories in different villages. The girls were always there to cheer Elo and motivate her. One day, Elo had just finished telling stories to a large crowd in a very big village called Asaba. She was going back to her car when someone brought her a letter. The seal shows that the letter was sent by a dignitary. She opened it in the car and found out it was the Prince of Asaba who sent it to her. In the letter, The prince was professing his love to her and he asked her to marry her. After reading the letter, Elohor dumped it in the trash can. Easing. When her sister asked her why she did that, she explained to them that every man has wanted to marry her since she became famous and she knows they are after her fame and money. Kume asked her if she has ever thought of giving any of them a chance, but Elohor replied, at first, I would reply their letters and decline their marriage proposal. But rather than try to convince me, many of them would write me back to tell me that I wouldn't find a man to marry me if I continue declining their marriage offers. So to them, they are doing me a favor by asking for my hand in marriage. I do not wish for that kind of marriage. I want a man who loves me for me and not for my fame or money. She said that she would not reply the letter because it always ends the same way. She told her sisters that she would find her true love one day and she believes the time will come very soon. Then she tossed the letter in the trash inside the car. 3 days later, the Prince of Asaba visited Elohor. He was a charming young man, and for a moment, Elohor and her sisters were speechless. As the prince introduced himself to Elohor, she was carried away by his vigor. Hi, I'm Prince Azuka from Asaba village, he introduced himself. Hello couldn't resist admiring the young handsome man, but she quickly composed herself and invited him inside. The prince asked if she received his letter, and Ella replied that she did. Then, searching her eyes, he asked, so, what is your response? Their eyes met, but Ella quickly looked away. She told him her response is no, because she doesn't know why a handsome prince from a wealthy royal family would want to marry someone like her. I'm not a princess, so why me? Elo asked. The prince was surprised. He asked her why she would imply that she's not deserving of a prince's love because she's not a princess, when he thinks she's the most beautiful woman he has ever seen and he hasn't been able to sleep well ever since he set his eyes on her. Elo sat there staring at the pins. It's baffled her that the prince would think she's beautiful when almost everyone she has met never liked her for her looks. Hello did not believe Prince Azuka. If he wasn't from a wealthy family, she would have sworn that he was there for her money. But then, she didn't know what to believe. After deliberating for a few seconds, she told the prince that she would think about his proposal. Then, she introduced her sisters to the prince. Kome, her elder sister, was all over the prince, but he paid no attention to her. Hello watched as Kome shook the prince's hands and refused to let go. She asked him to come explore the beautiful estate with her, but the prince declined, saying he would prefer doing that with his host, Elo, if she doesn't mind. Elo is confused because she has never been in any relationship, and things like this looked alien to her. Ovie quickly chipped in by replying, yes, she would not mind, and she dragged Elo towards the prince, while Kome looked away. Kome was leaving in anger when Elo asked her to come with them, but she said it's okay as she rushed upstairs. Ovie gives Elo a questioning look, but she doesn't understand what is going on. After taking Prince Azuka around the estate, he told her that he enjoyed her company and that she should let him know as soon as she made up her mind about the marriage proposal. I want you to take your time, Elo. I'm not in a rush, and I wouldn't want you to make a wrong decision. Marriage is a long-time commitment, and if you're not ready for it, I will respect your decision. He told her that he would like to visit anytime she's available again, and she gave him a date. When Oleo got back home, she quickly went to Kome's room to apologize to her for the prince's behavior towards her, but Kome replies that it's okay. That night, Oleo began to talk about Azuka while they eat. Prince Azuka seemed like a really nice person though, or what do you think? She asked the girls. Yes, he seemed really nice. I like him already, Ovie replied, smiling sheepishly. Kome and Ene did not say anything, and the girls ate in silence. 3 days later, her two sisters, Kome and Ene, informed Elor that they would be going back to Wari, and Elor gave them lots of gifts. She also asked the driver to drop them off. Before they left, Elohor asked them if everything was fine because their behavior towards her changed after the prince's visit, but the girls assured her that everything was fine. After they left, Ovie told Elohor to be careful of Kome and her mother because they are always gossiping about her in their room. Mama and Kome believes you do not deserve to have such a wealth as her younger sister, and also because she is more beautiful. Mama left because she's not happy that you are in this position, Ovie told her one day. Ella was heartbroken to hear that her mother and sister would feel that way, despite the fact that she was ready to forgive them for their past mistakes and even change their lives for the better. But then, Ella knows she has done her best. When Kome got back to Warri, she informed her mother that she met a handsome prince at Ella's place, but she snatched him from her just because she's rich. Kome began to cry and informed her mother of the prince's next visit. She wants her mother to meet the prince and convince him to marry her, since she's more beautiful. Mama, you need to see Prince Azuka. He is very handsome. He is the kind of son-in-law any mother would pray for, Kome told her mother. Mama, it's also a great opportunity for us to become wealthy and show Elo that we can also make our own money. Our arrogance is just too much. Imagine Elohor, my younger sister, telling me that she will sponsor my wedding. What a show off! What effrontery! Chai! Hmm. Mama Kome asked her daughter to leave everything to her. Elo, marry a prince? That will never happen. Mama Kome swore as she hugged her daughter. Prince Azuka and Elo met at a public place during their next visit, and the two had a great time together. Elo had fallen in love with the prince, and she kept wondering if it was real or not. They met many times after that, and she always wished for the meeting not to end. There is no doubt that the prince loves Elo so much, and he is doing everything to prove it to her. For the first time in her life, Elo was treated with utmost respect and love, and she returned every bit of it and more to make the prince know that he did not make the wrong choice. One day, Mama Kume visited Elo. Her mother accused her of not visiting them now that she's famous and rich. But Kume replied, "But Mama, I have told you severally that I can't have my meetings in Warri. People know me here. I have other houses here in Hagbo where you can live, but you have refused to leave Warri. Ovie told me you barely have customers these days, so what are you doing there? Also, Father barely comes home these days. He doesn't even know if I'm dead or alive, and he doesn't even care about you and my sisters. So what are you still doing in Warri?" Mama Kume shoved her question aside and she worried inside the house. She told Elo to help them with the funds she promised for Kume's wedding. "The wedding date is drawing near and we need to start making some preparations," Mama Kume said. "Okay, Mama, I'm coming," Elo replied as she went upstairs to get the money from her room. She gave her 10 bundles of cash, but rather than thank her, Mama Kume told her that they would be needing more money to renovate their building in Warri. "The money you gave me the last time barely covered the windows and ceilings. We need to change the house paints, chairs, kitchen utensils, and other important things." Ella wanted to tell her mother that the money she gave her the last time she came would renovate a duplex and she will still have some change left, but she decided against it. She gave her more money, but she felt bad because her mother did not even appreciate it. She still believes it is too small. Mama Komai got up to leave after collecting the money, and Ella asked her why she's leaving so soon, and she gave the same response that her customers would be waiting for her. Ella felt so bad at her mother's behavior, and she began to wonder if she has not brought problems upon herself by accepting them back in her life. Ella sat there thinking, and it occurred to her that her mother never apologized for treating her badly while she was growing up. She just moved in with her and her sisters that day. So she must have thought that I deserved all the bad treatment back then. And I actually thought she was crying because she felt remorseful. Ella began to understand, but she did not know what to do or think. She decided that she will focus on getting better at her skill and avoid thinking about her mother. A few days passed and Elohor looked forward to meeting Prince Azuka. The last time they met, he told her that he has a surprise for her and she has been looking forward to it for days. But on the set date, Elohor waited for hours for the arrival of the prince, but he did not show up. She was worried and could not sleep throughout the entire night. The next day, she waited at the venue at the same time, hoping that he would show up, but she did not see any sign of Prince Azuka. She began to worry and hope that nothing bad has happened to the prince. By morning, she traveled down to Asaba to find out if the prince was fine. But when she got there, she met the shock of her life. The prince was getting married to someone else, and the guards were told not to allow her in. She tried to know whom the prince got married to, but the crowd blocked her view. Ella sat outside the gate crying. She blamed herself for thinking that a handsome prince like Azuka would marry someone like her. But then, a thought occurred to her. Why would he go through the stress of traveling down to Agbo to meet me if he never loved me? Ella began to think that something must be wrong because she believes Azuka loves her and will never try to break her heart. She sat in her car, waiting for a guard to come around so she could ask him who got married to the prince. After waiting for a few hours, Ella finally approached one of the guards to ask him whom the prince was getting married to. He replied that he knows the bride and her people are from Wari village. Ella gave him a card and asked him to visit her if he had any information about the bride and he would be greatly compensated. Ella was surprised. She began to put the pieces together and she realized that Kome must have gotten married to the prince. But how come? Ella asked herself. Will Kome really get married without inviting me? Why would mother do that? Ella asked herself as she drove back to Agbo. She began to cry and blamed herself for giving the prince a chance to date and believing in love. Ella cried for days and Ovi did everything to make her stop blaming herself and thinking about the heartbreak. After a few days, she finally decided that she would pay her mom a visit and further confirm if her sister truly married the prince. When Ella got to worry, she found out that her mother had changed address. When she asked around, she was directed to the new address by a villager. When she got to her mother's new residence, she was surprised at how massive it is and the change in her mother's life. She was ushered in by Ene, who was sitting outside the house giving instructions to their maids. When she entered the house, she was speechless at the luxurious furniture and fittings. She sat on a chair while Ene went inside to call her mother. Mama Kume came in with a glass of wine in her hands and she looked so beautiful that someone could mistake her as a single lady. She hugged Elo and pretended like everything was fine. Elo was surprised at her mother's warm welcome. She did not waste time before she began to ask her mother how she amassed so much wealth in such a short while. Well, my dear, Kume has been going out with a prince for the last 2 years, and he finally decided to pay her bride price a few days ago. Everything you see here is a gift from the prince's family, and there is more to come where that came from. According to the king, we will also be getting monthly foodstuffs and fresh meat for the next 1 year. Who would resist such an offer? Mama Kume smiled as she sipped her wine. Hello didn't understand what was going on. Mama, are you talking about Prince Azuka of Asaba? She asked, confused. Yes, my dear, the same handsome prince of Asaba. Kume told me that he came to your place a few times for business, but he pretended not to know her to ensure a smooth business transaction. Mama Kume replied, confusing Elo further. He wasn't on business visit and Kume knows that. He visited because he wanted to marry me, and Kume never mentioned it to me that they ever met before he came to my place. Why is she lying? Elo replied, surprised of her sister's betrayal. Well, unlike you, Elo, Kume is not known to be a liar since she was a child. So I believe her and I think you're the one who is trying to create problems here. Please, if your intention is to create problems, I would suggest you leave and never come back to this house again. Her mother busted out. Ella was totally shattered and heartbroken to hear her mother send her away again after she accepted her back. She sat in the sitting room crying and wondering if she truly is her mother. With tears streaming down her face and a trembling voice, Ella asked her mother, are you truly my mother? Did you carry me for 9 months in your womb? What a question! Just listen to yourself, Mama Kume blurted out. Leave my house this minute and don't bother to come back since you're insinuating that I'm not your mother, you ungrateful child. But what have I ever done to you, mother? Why treat me like a leper? Elo asked again, crying. I do not blame you. I'm here having this conversation with you because I decided to raise you when I could have given you up for adoption. Hello, you've always been a pain to me since you were a child, and I cannot forget that. Leave when you're ready, and please shut the door behind you. Mama Kume said as she left Elo sitting there. Elo sat on the chair, frozen for a few minutes, unsure if she heard her mother clearly. But it dawned on her that her mother will never love her no matter what she did. She left after a while, feeling betrayed and dejected. Few weeks passed and Elo moved on with her life, without letting what her mom and sister did to hurt her anymore. She is pleased with Ovie, her only sister, who loved her unconditionally and she's taking great care of her. Meanwhile, Koma is enjoying her life to the fullest at the Asabat Palace, without knowing of the danger that lurks around the palace. The prince showered her with lots of love and gifts, and she was very happy that her dream of marrying a prince had finally come to pass. But many times, when Koma informed the prince that she would be visiting her mother, he would always decline. He would tell her that she can only visit her mother after 1 year of being his wife. Kome was surprised. She doesn't know why the prince would prevent her from seeing her family. She became disturbed. Mama Kome also visited one time, but the guards prevented her from entering. The prince's wife is only allowed to see her parents after 1 year of their marriage. Mama Kome was informed before the marriage that she would not be seeing her daughter until after 1 year, but she thought she could see her daughter by bribing the guards, but it did not work out. She had no choice but to wait for the 1 year period to elapse. One morning, the guard, whom Elohor gave her address, visited her in her home. He introduced himself as Bala. Bala has been working in the palace for 10 years and he knows almost everything that happens there. He told Elohor that her sister's life is in danger. He informs her that the Asaba kingdom has a long tradition of sacrificing 7 pregnant brides before the prince can get married. The blood of the 7 pregnant brides will be used to appease the gods against calamity and sudden death of the villagers. He said this tradition has been in existence for over a century and Koma is the 6th bride of the present generation. Due to this, none of the brides are allowed to leave the palace after being married and the prince must impregnate them within the 1 year period. So by keeping Kome at the palace, they want to make sure that her pregnancy is legitimate and that she doesn't run away. The guard told Elo that he could help Kome escape if she followed his instructions. After a long silence in trying to process the information she has just received, Elo asked the guard, are you saying that if I had married the prince, I would have been the sacrifice as soon as I got pregnant? Yes, that is exactly what will happen. And I'm happy that you're not in that situation because you're a kind-hearted woman. Your mom basically begged the king to convince the prince to marry your sister. I was there the day she came. The king gave her all sorts of gifts when she was leaving. And even though the king informed her that she would only see her daughter after a year, your mom was too blind to see how that doesn't seem right. Did you know that many families have rejected the king's offer of marriage due to that single condition and the king never forced anyone? If he did, the sacrifice will not be accepted. Hmm. Elo heaved a heavy sigh and she told the guard that she doesn't want to have anything to do with her sister and mother anymore. But the information she heard is unsettling and she's afraid that she may blame herself if anything happens to her sister. She asked the guard what to do and he told her to come to the palace and pretend to be there to see the king. You will tell the king that you want to use the restroom after a while. I will make sure that Ome is waiting for you there. You have just 5 minutes to convince her that her life is in danger. Elo did as instructed, but when Kome saw her, she turned to leave immediately. Elo tried to inform her about the dangers of remaining at the palace, but Kome called her a liar. You are a shitty human being, Elo. How could you try to destroy my marriage just because the prince changed his mind and married me? It is not my fault that you are not beautiful and worthy of a prince. So please run along, or you will not like what I will do to you. Kome said angrily. Kome, I know you decided to go for the prince because you like him, and I don't care. I have moved on. I'm talking about your life. You are in danger living here. Elohor replied, unmoved by her betrayal and harsh words. Kome hissed and threatened to call Elohor a thief if she doesn't leave her alone. Elohor tried one more time to convince her, but Kome began to scream, Thief! Thief! Elohor had to leave immediately and head back to the palace. She left the palace feeling sorry for her sister, but there was nothing she could do. Days passed and she began to think of what else to do. She was confused. Knowing that her sister's life is in danger and not doing anything about it would mean she's heartless. After thinking for many days, Ella finally decided to meet her mother to tell her what she heard. But when she did, her mother called her a liar and a thief who wanted to snatch her sister's husband because the prince did not marry her. Ella explained that she has moved on and she's only trying to save Kome's life, but her mother walked out on her, calling her all sorts of names. Ella was not surprised at her mom's attitude, but she wished that she could just believe her this one time. Ella, knowing she has tried her best, moved on with her life. A few months later, Ella was in a small village telling her stories when a man approached her. He introduced himself as Obo and he had just returned from London. He told her of his intention to go on a date with her, but Ella turned down his offer and she left him standing there. 3 days later, Obo visited again, but this time he says he's only interested in being friends with her. Ella asked him how he got her address and he replied, It wasn't easy, but I don't give up easily. Ella wanted to reject his friendship offer at first, but after his second thought, she ushered him in. They began to talk and Ella found out that it was fun to be with. He's a medical doctor based in the UK and he will be leaving soon. They met a few more times and Ella finally said yes to dating him the next time he asked. If there is one thing Ella has learned, it is to always give love a chance, since finding people who will love you for who you are is not easy these days. Obu proposed to her after a month of dating, and Ella said yes to his proposal. He started making arrangements to take Ella and her younger sister, Ovi, along with him to London. As everything seemed to be working out fast, Ella developed cold feet. She began to fear for her life and wonder if this wasn't another prince, Azuka. She traveled down to Ubu's village without telling him, and she began to find out about him from the villagers, and many people said good things about him. She was finally relieved and was ready to go with Obu. Since her parents and siblings never liked her despite her kindness, she believes that giving her love to someone who is deserving of it is the right thing to do. Before leaving, Ella rented out all her apartments and offices and she put her trusted manager in charge. She paid her staff off and compensated them greatly. On the D-Day, Ella was all packed and ready to leave with her sister Ovie. They were taking a final look at the house when a taxi drove into the compound. Ella was surprised because she wasn't expecting any visitors. She was surprised to see her mother get out of the car, crying. Ella, I haven't seen Komel. I went to the palace after the 1 year, but they told me that she was heavily pregnant and cannot see me. I pleaded with the prince to let me see her, but they told me that they paid me off to marry the princess. So why the tears? I asked him if he had sacrificed my daughter like I heard, and he replied that I and my daughter came to the palace without being forced and that I should accept what happens as a result. He said he wanted to marry you, Elohor, but he had to rethink because of your kindness. He told me that you deserve the best man and unconditional love because you have shown him kindness so many times that he kept asking himself if sacrificing you was a smart decision. So he was very happy when I walked in with my daughter and begged the king to convince him to marry her. Hello, it was all a trap. The prince never loved my daughter. And they even stopped sending the monthly foodstuffs and meat. Now I don't have any money and my Kome is gone. My mother began to cry. Oh, I see. You are more concerned about the foodstuff and meat than the safety of your own daughter, which explains why you're concerned about her when the goodies stopped coming in. You're a very selfish mother. Ella asked her if she did anything when she told her that Kome's life was in danger, and she replied that she did nothing. So why are you here now? Ella asked, looking at her mother with so much anger and pain. I want you to use your influence to bring the prince to justice, her mother replied, stammering. Even if it was what she could do. Ella replied her mother, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. It is too late. The yearly Asaba festival took place a few days ago, and Kome has been sacrificed. There is nothing else I can do. I did everything possible to save her life, but you did not listen to me because of your hatred for your own child. Kume also called me a thief, which is indeed the thief who threw herself at the prince. Well, she did me a favor because I would have been the one sacrificed at the festival. Please excuse me, I have a flight to catch, Ella said without any feelings or emotions. In truth, she did her best, but they were both blinded by the riches given to them by the king. Mama Kume asked her where she was going, but Kume did not reply as she entered the vehicle to join her husband-to-be. Ovie got out of the car to inform her mother that they're going to the UK as Elohor had finally found her prince charming. Everyone deserves to be loved, and I'm happy that Elohor found her true love. They are getting married in a few days in London. Bye, mother, Ovie said happily, and she walked away from her mother. The car drove away, leaving Mama Kume standing there, crying and regretting all her actions. Did Elohor do the right thing, abandoning her mother? Let me know in the comment section, please. The moral of this story is that we should love all our children equally, regardless of their looks or who they are. Always guide your children to do the right thing and never be too jealous or too pained to accept what God has destined. You can't play God. Thank you so much for watching the last part of this story. Please subscribe, like, share, and let me know what you think about this story in the comment section. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.